Video games are supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be able to relax with them, get competitive with them, or anything in between. But what if I told you there were some video games you shouldn't play? You should never turn on. What is up, guys? Chaos here. Welcome to Chaos Top 10s, and today we're going to be digging into 10 cursed video games. You heard me right. Cursed video games you should never play. And let me know in the comments if you guys have ever played any of these. And if you have, well, I feel for you. At number 10, we have Taboo, The Sixth Sense. This is a game all the way back on the NES platform that was developed by Rareware and published by Tradewest back in 1989. The game was a very simple tarot card reading simulator where you could just enter some information about yourself, answer a couple questions, and read your results. However, things got a little weird when the game actually predicted the death of a handful of players. Now, this led to tons of backlash and accusations of the game being cursed, and Tradewest actually pulled it from the shelves shortly afterwards. Strangely, Tradewest dissolved shortly afterwards in 1994, which just makes the story even stranger. Imagine a video game coming out and predicting the deaths of real-life people and them actually happening. Coincidence? Maybe. Cursed video game? Maybe. At number 9, we have Pokemon Red and Green, the original version. Many of you have probably played Pokemon Red and Green, but chances are you haven't played the OG version, which has a pretty strange history to it. Now, Pokemon Red and Green came out in 1996 in Japan, 2 years before the international release, and in the original Japanese release of this game, there was a musical track that would play when you entered Lavender Town. However, according to the legends, this musical track was linked to various children either falling ill with headaches or nausea, or even having really bad thoughts. It definitely sounds ridiculous, but apparently, it was enough for Nintendo to recall the game, change the music for international release, and then release it the following year. This month's giveaway is for a new PlayStation 4 console. All you have to do to enter is drop a like on this video, be subscribed to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you never miss an upload. And in the comment section, let me know why you want to win the PS4 and include your Twitter handle so I can contact you if you're the winner. The winner will be announced at the end of the month. At number 8, we have a game called Kill Switch. This is a pretty famous story in the gaming world, and Kill Switch was a game released in 1989 by a Soviet company called Karvina Corporation, although official records of this company, well, they don't exist anymore. Now, according to the stories, Kill Switch was kind of an action horror puzzle game hybrid that had you playing either as a girl or a demon as you go through a coal mine fighting monsters and trying to find your way out. But apparently, the game was unbeatable because after finishing it, it would erase itself from your hard drive, which obviously meant that after a while, the game became almost impossible to find since all the copies were literally disappearing into thin air. Then, in 2005, an unopened copy appeared on eBay, and it was bought by a Japanese man named Yamamoto Ryuichi, who claimed he was going to debunk all the mysteries by playing through the whole thing and uploading it to YouTube. But when Yamamoto finally uploaded his video to his YouTube channel, it was just one long video of him staring at the camera and crying. This, to this day, is one of the weirdest, strangest, creepiest video game stories out there. At number 7, we have Morrowind JVK1166Z.ESP. Now, plenty of you have probably played Morrowind, and it's a great game. But how many of you know about the JVK mod? Nobody knows when this creepy mod for the Bethesda RPG first appeared, but it has been reported to have driven some players absolutely insane. Upon starting the game with the mod installed, you'll find that every other character in the game is dead and you are the only one alive. Plus, if you stand still, your health will start to drain, so you have to keep moving constantly. However, if you stand still and let yourself die, a new character will reveal himself, a man with deformed limbs that bent unnaturally like a spider's. But the weirdness of the mod didn't stop there. Apparently, all the characters who died from installing the mod would come back to life at nighttime, but they would just stand in place and stare at the sky. Plus, as if all that wasn't strange enough, this mod added a new dungeon to the game called the Hall of Portraits, which, you guessed it, was a long hallway with tons of framed pictures on the walls, but the pictures were all images pulled from the player's hard drive, and at the end of the hallway, there was a door that was impossible to open, which allegedly drove some players insane from the mystery. At number 6, we have a game called Lair. Does anybody remember this PS3 launch title that was supposed to be epic but ended up just being kind of a turd? Well, there's a lot more about this game than you may be aware of. For those that don't remember, Lair was a fantasy action game for the PS3 developed by a company called Factor 5 and published by Sony in 2007. It was widely criticized for its repetitive gameplay and its broken controls, but things get a little weird when you dive into the exact details of its origin. According to various reports from people on the development team, there was a massive power outage while the game's master files were being transferred between disks, causing some of it to be lost. Then, there were a good number of people on the team who either developed health issues or lost family members to health issues during the game's development. And finally, less than 2 years after the game came out, the entire company closed up shop. It's almost like the game was trying to tell them something during development. At number 5, we have a game called Hall of Tortured Souls. This is an old school one, okay? Back in the Windows 95 days, someone somehow discovered there was a hidden game in Microsoft Excel that could be unlocked with an extremely complex series of button entries. Upon entering all the keys required in Excel, a new window would open up called the Hall of Tortured Souls, which was a 3D adventure game where you wandered around various hallways and rooms with some strange imagery inside of them. Now, no one at Microsoft has ever really explained why this is here, but it has led to tons of odd theories about different things going on in the Microsoft offices that aren't so good. At number 4, we have a game called Sad Satan. You guys may have noticed I'm kind of fascinated by the dark web, and this next game was first discovered by a YouTube channel called Obscure Horror Corner in 2015. Apparently, the link was sent to them by a viewer, and they had to download it using a Tor. The game itself is a walking simulator that has you going down a narrow hallway while some disturbing audio tracks play, and you'll occasionally be shown images of murders and crazy situations. Eventually, the player will begin to take damage from an NPC child following them, and you'll die, at which point, the screen will fade to black and gives you a message that reads, "Suffering doesn't end." And today, it's almost impossible to play this game yourself due to the links all being taken down, but you can find footage of it on YouTube. Just don't watch it while you're alone in the dark. At number 3, the Nintendo Virtual Boy. You may be thinking this was a console, not a game, Jimmy, and you would be right, but it's still deserving of a spot on the list due to the strange happenings behind the scenes after its release. For those that don't remember, the Virtual Boy was supposed to be the first VR console ever, but it was extremely poorly made and ended up being the biggest flop in Nintendo's history, selling less than 800,000 units. But, believe it or not, the main mastermind behind the Virtual Boy was Gunpei Yokoi, the creator of the Game Boy and the Game & Watch, as well as the producer of the Metroid series. Now, the Virtual Boy launched internationally in '96 and was apparently such a massive disappointment to Yoko that he fell into a deep depression, and the gaming legend died the following year in a car crash. At number 2, we have a game called Berserk. This arcade shooter was released in 1980, and it was pretty popular with the teenagers, but its popularity quickly died out after it allegedly caused the death of 2 passionate players. The gameplay of Berserk is pretty simple. It's a top-down shooter with a sort of maze-like structure to the levels. You just run around and see how long you can survive, and in 1981, it unfortunately became the first video game ever associated with the death of a player. Jeff Daly was a very avid player of the game, but according to reports, died of a heart attack after setting the high score of 16,660 points, which many attribute to some kind of demonic activity since 666, the Mark of the Beast, is in the score. Things got weirder the following year when another player, an 18-year-old named Peter Burkowski, made the top 10 high score list twice in 15 minutes, but died of a heart attack just seconds after finishing the second game. Needless to say, it's not exactly the kind of attention you want surrounding your game as a publisher. And finally, at number 1 today, we have Polybius. This is perhaps the most famous of all the cursed video games, and according to the stories, Polybius was an arcade machine that first popped up in 1981. It also reportedly was a very rare game with only a handful of machines ever manufactured, and the ones that were released were mainly located around Portland, Oregon. The stories state that people who played this game would often experience seizures afterwards and sometimes even experience night terrors or hallucinations. This was supposedly caused by a very violent strobe effect of the game, and yet people were apparently addicted to it. But under a year after its release, it vanished and all the machines were destroyed. According to various arcade owners, there was a small group of men dressed all in black who would come in from time to time, collect the data from the Polybius machines, and leave without a word before one day they came and took the machine away for good. The most common theory surrounding it was that it was an experiment by the government as a way to test psychoactive technology. Now today, the game has just become an urban legend, with many people claiming it was never even real due to the lack of evidence. But there are some people who claim to have seen it back in the day or even to have worked on it, and there are actually records of an arcade in Portland of 2 people collapsing with migraine headaches on the same exact day in 1981. I guess will never know the actual truth. And there you go, my friends. Those are 10 cursed video games for whatever reason. I mean, you guys can, if you believe in curses, you can go with it. If you don't, you can just call it coincidence. I will leave that up to you guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like. If you guys want more scary, spooky gaming top 10s, definitely let me know in the comment section. We can make them happen. Make sure you turn on those post notifications, and I'll see you soon.